1.
Depths of a secret dungeon deep in the remote Pacific Northwest, you're traveling somewhere between abnormal and paranormal into the Parabnormal.
Yeah, I told you not to be late. There it is, the new official theme song of Into the Parabnormal. Composed, produced, and performed by Johnny Cobb and by Jerry McCoy. They're also the brains behind the Calvin Parker story, Blackwater Blue Moon, which we had on the program a couple of weeks ago. Johnny Cobb and Jerry McCoy have been in the music business their entire lives as musicians, composers, singers, and producers. Jerry's background includes the honor of Master Guitarist Blues Hall of Fame, and you can kind of understand why when you hear that rockin' guitar on our official Into the Parabnormal theme song. He's a top recording session musician in Nashville. Jerry played bass, toured and recorded with the Dickie Betts Band and the Greg Allman Band. He was a featured guitarist on CMA Album of the Year, Ronnie Millsap Live by RCA Records. Jerry was a founding member of Nashville's premier rock band, Mighty High. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
And, of course, we know Johnny. He was here on our show about Calvin Parker's story. He's a Grammy-nominated artist for his Elektra Asylum Records album, Lawler and Cobb, called Men From Nowhere. He composed the Allman Brothers hit releases Straight from the Heart and Angeline, and also sang backup vocals. Etta James recorded his song Jump Into My Fire, which appeared on her Grammy-nominated album 7 Year Itch from Island Records. He moved to Nashville with RCA Records superstar Ronnie Millsap, and as Millsap's bass player and singer, recorded on his albums, toured the world, and appeared on many TV shows. Johnny also performed back vocals on 3 Garth Brooks albums. I'm absolutely honored to have you do the official Into the Parabnormal theme song.
We're truly honored that you've accepted it.
Our pleasure.
I mean, it really does capture the theme of this show. And just, for the record, I approached them about doing the theme song after I heard Blackwater Blue Moon, and Johnny was immediately receptive and dare I call giddy at the opportunity to, do the theme song for this show. Is that about right, Johnny?
I thought you were putting me on at first. That's the reason I said, "Are you really serious?"
Oh, absolutely, absolutely serious, because you guys are talented, and this song really, really captures the theme of the show. I think the only thing that we really discussed was what kind of feel we wanted the music to have, but Johnny came up with the lyrics, and the lyrics. I mean, I've heard them again. I probably have memorized them by now. They really encapsulate what this show is all about.
Johnny is the lyric maestro, I tell you, man. We do a lot of collaborating. We have an album that we did last year that's just, and Johnny is the main lyric writer. I contribute some lyrics here and there, a few tweaks here and there, whatever, but Johnny is the lyric maestro.
Well, I've been exposed to Jeremy for about the last, I think maybe 2 years. I've been listening to you on a regular basis, and you cover all the subjects that I'm interested in. I'm like thousands of other people laying in bed listening to your program late at night, and the lyrics actually just flowed out once I got the chord progression together and called Jerry and told him what we were going to do. I basically just sent Jerry just a rough chord progression of what we were doing, and then I started working on the lyrics while he started working on the music, and it was like it's like this little magical formula that we have, because everything we do long distance by email, and so when I hear the finished product, I'm just as happy with it as you are, Jeremy.
And those lyrics are just absolutely amazing, that we live in a parallel universe, that there is some sort of veil that separates us. You believe in that, don't you, Johnny?
Definitely do. As I've told you before, I started becoming very interested in all these subjects probably when I was around 9, 10, 11 years old. And, this is way before social media and way before what we're doing right now, that we can actually contact the people that we can learn from, like yourself. And it's like a learning experience every night that you turn your station on and listen to you. And I'm just really, really honored. I mean, I've got cold chills, man, just from listening to the song being played.
Going into those lyrics, for those who may not have heard them, didn't know what to expect, or like, what is this? The second part of that, open the gates, let the truth be known. There's more than meets the eye. We're not alone.
Yeah, Johnny nailed it with that. And I've always thought that there's more to everything than meets the eye. Just any subject you can name, there's always more to it than meets the eye, and this includes life in general. There's
For
more
sure.
to this life than meets the eye.
Totally. Now, I was going to ask you, how long has your show actually been on the air?
So we started in the fall of 2015, so about 4 years now.
Okay, I think I discovered you about 2 years ago then.
And we have almost 350 episodes.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Oh, it's a lot of shows, a lot of truth, the true reality that you speak of into the Parabnormal theme song. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Obviously, there has to be almost no doubt in your mind, Johnny, to at least be open to listening to these subjects on a weekly basis.
Definitely, on a daily basis. And I tell you what, just like I was telling you about Calvin's story, I've heard Calvin give his interviews so many times. And when we started working on the lyrics for that song, Blackwater Blue Moon, the lyrics just kind of flowed because I was so familiar with Calvin's story from him telling it so many times to people like yourself. And so when the idea, when you said, hey, you want to write a theme song for my show, and once I established that you actually were serious, it's like all I did was start tapping in on all the key highlights of what your show and what you're all about. And when you have somebody to draw from like that, the lyrics come pretty easily because you kind of edit out things that are unnecessary and just get right down to the meat of the subject. And that's the way you do your interviews too. I want to compliment you because your voice, your demeanor, and the way that you interview people on a nightly basis is perfection, man. You've got it down, and it's really a pleasure to listen to your show each night.
I really appreciate that. And, of course, the first part of that song, there's a parallel universe, a veil that separates us from all we perceive, true reality. You nailed it there again, Johnny.
I think you probably wrote that. I think you probably need to write a credit on that.
Maybe I channeled it to you or something in the process. I don't know. Jerry, have you had any experiences with the other side or what we might call paranormal, or when you do this song Into the Parabnormal and Blackwater Blue Moon, the Calvin Parker story, are these kind of the first songs you've ever done on paranormal subjects?
Well, actually, yes, on this subject it is, but I do have a paranormal type experience that I can relate to you of my very own.
Has Johnny heard this one before, or is this going to be new to Johnny?
He has heard it, but yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear it.
Well, it was with a UFO experience that I had around 2003. I had just moved back down here to Arkansas to care for my parents who had gotten unable to care for themselves, and so I moved back home to take care of my folks. And when you got a couple of 90-year-olds you're chasing around and trying to keep them out of trouble, it's like herding cats kind of. And at the end of the day, I'd be worn out, so I'd go outside. After I got them to bed, I'd go outside and just catch my breath and look up at the stars, because I live way out in the country, and so there's plenty of stars, plenty of sky. And I would go out at night, sometimes play my guitar out there on the porch, and I was out there looking at the sky one night, and I saw this really bright light appear up to the north there, and it was way up in the air, and I thought it was a star. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, that light zoomed down to treetop level. And then I'm going, whoa, what was that? So anyway, I'm watching that and going, what in the world? So it all of a sudden it zooms over to the right just as fast, just way over from north all the way over to due east across the tree line in the blink of an eye. And so I'm watching it, and I'm wondering, am I really seeing this? I'm not stoned or anything like that, you know. So, and then all of a sudden, it zoomed right back up where it started from, way up there in the air, and I started waving my arms, trying to signal them, hey, can y'all see me? Can you see me? If so, come down. I want to meet you. But they didn't, and it lingered there for a minute, and then all of a sudden, it shot upward. In the blink of an eye, it was just gone, just disappeared. And there's nothing around here. Like I said, I'm out in the country. There's no any kind of city lights or anything that could reflect on anything. So I'm convinced that I saw a craft from another world, or else something so top secret that the government might have. I don't know. I don't think the government could have anything that could move that quick.
Oh, Johnny, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I was going to ask you something, because I think you actually be the person that can maybe answer this question. Outside of being interested, you know, I told you, like, the first book that I actually sunk my teeth into was A Chariot of the Gods, and then I was totally hooked, because, you know, from that point on, it was just like a learning process. But I want to ask you, what is this called? This happens on a regular basis with me, and I'm not sure if it's an out-of-body experience or what, but when I go into a deep sleep, sometimes I feel like I'm around other people that I know, but I've never met ever. And I'm carrying on conversations with these people like I've been around them all my life, and they could be on the other side of the world. And it's like a whole little story that I'm all of a sudden involved in this group of people, a family or whatever it may be. And then when I wake up, I still have the memories of that particular, I'll call it a dream. But I didn't know if that's some type of astral projection or
Johnny, do you ever feel a floating sensation?
Well, that's one of the first things that I feel when the dream, I'm going to call it a dream because I'm really not sure what to call it. That's one of the first things that I feel when I slip off into that realm of that I'm actually asleep. And then I do feel, the weird thing about it, when I do wake up, I notice that a lot of times I'll wake up in like a jerk, like all of a sudden you've been startled or somebody maybe has shaken you, like on the side of the bed, like shook your shoulders or something. So I've never really had anybody to ask that question to, but I've been really curious because who else would know except you?
Well, it does sound like maybe you could be having a combination of an out-of-body experience and sleep paralysis or some sort of encounter in semi-conscious but not so conscious state. I actually did a program a couple of weeks ago called Nightmare Land, where we talked with an author about some of these sleep states and the weird experiences that people have encountered. People even as crazy as murdering people in their sleep because they're not conscious of what is going on. Others that are semi-conscious. We've all heard of sleepwalking and sleep talking, and even a new one that was I hadn't really thought of before was sleep eating, where people actually get up out of bed, walk down the hall to the kitchen, make themselves something to eat, and start eating, and they are asleep.
Oh man!
Yeah, I've seen reports of that happening. That's wild. I hope I don't do that. I don't think I do.
Jeremy, do you still go out and do investigating yourself, like and places that are supposedly haunted or ghost hunting or anything along that line?
Yeah, I was just at the McMenamins Grand Lodge, which is a Masonic property in Forest Grove, Oregon, owned by the McMenamins family, and there's a known haunted history there. We did some EVP and there were some other gadgets there. I got there late, so I didn't really get to play with many of the gadgets, but there was the yes/no box where you would ask a question, it would flash yes or no. We had the gadgets that would indicate not radioactivity, but energy or electromagnetics that were going on in the property. And apparently, right before I got there, they knew they were on that I was on my way because they were doing an EVP session. And the ghost box said my name. They were also able to communicate and learn that there were at least 40 active spirits in the vicinity that they were communicating at that one time. But apparently the real crazy stuff happened after everybody went to bed. There were reports of people's toes getting tugged on, which is a creepy feeling, or feeling like somebody's crawling into bed with you. Maybe even creepier, or somebody sitting on top of you while you're in bed, trying to suffocate you. Those were experiences that were recounted by others, but that's really my only experience going on an actual down to earth ghost hunt at a haunted place. What about you, Johnny?
You know what? I hate to admit this, but when I first started playing in bands, sometimes this is like junior high school. Like 5 or 6 of us would load into the van. We'd be pulling a trailer. We'd go all the way down to a frat house in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That was a big fraternity row. And we'd play our gig. Then we'd come back home, and it was only like midnight. So we'd unhook the trailer and leave it at somebody's house. And then we'd spend the rest of the night driving out into the country to supposedly haunted locations. And just to we never experienced anything, but it was one of those situations. Even back then, I remember us going out places that you wouldn't even think about going out to now, just to see what you could come up with and try to experience anything out there. But I tell you, one of the things that really gave me cold chills, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but one of my friends is, I'll say, Ed Walters in Gulf Breeze. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, well, that's not his real last name, but Ed is actually the gentleman that took the pictures that when the Gulf Breeze sightings, the book Gulf Breeze Sightings, and all the photographs that were taken during that late 80s, and all these unbelievable pictures were taken. And like so many people that are involved in the UFO side of it, especially if they're taking videos or pictures, you get bombarded by all the debunkers, all the critics, and then you have certain people that follow you and believe you. But I stayed with Ed a couple of different times, him and his wife in Gulf Breeze. And I never would bring the subject up until the last night. We'd be sitting around in the living room, and his wife would go, "Well, Ed, do you want to tell Johnny what's going on?" And then Ed would fill me in on the latest encounter that he had. If you get a chance, check out Gulf Breeze Sightings. And this, he went under that's his real first name, Ed, but he used a different name for his book, and just to say private, but he used that under Ed Walters. And it's pretty fascinating because the strange thing about it, I had read about all the encounters, looked at all the pictures, and then he brought out some Polaroids. We met with one of the guys from MUFON late one night, right there on the inlet in Gulf Breeze, and Ed was pointing out this, so I took the pictures, and Ed is actually the guy that he actually went on one of these back roads and encountered a UFO hovering over this back secondary road, and the government came out and marked that area. Well, Ed's gone out skywatching so many times. One of the last times I was there, I went out by myself. He gave me all the directions, and he said, just be careful, because there's nobody out there. There's like ocean on both sides of you. And I went out, I guess, about 5 or 6 hours after a gig. I went to the location where the markings were still on the little secondary road where the craft had hovered, and it was just a weird feeling. Even I didn't see anything. It's just a weird feeling, like you going, okay, something happened here, and now I'm here. And but that's probably about the closest I've had as far as anything that I could relate to that you would call like a UFO or paranormal experience.
Speaking of like weird feelings of like another presence there, well, I still live here in my mom and dad's house. They passed on a good while ago, but I inherited the house, so that's why I wound up staying here in Arkansas and didn't go back to Nashville. But anyway, sometimes when I'm in there in the kitchen of this house, I'll feel a presence walk by the doorway, and and for some reason I know it was my mother. I can feel my mother's presence walk by the doorway. It's just like, that you know that phenomenon where you're looking at a gasoline or something, and it's open a thing of gasoline, and you see these fumes rising up out of the gas. You know, it's like
kind of like heat on a highway.
It's not really fumes, but it's like a.
It's like a
I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of a wavy air, and that's what I kind of felt. I kind of saw go by the doorway. It's just like a blip in time or something there, you know. And I've had that experience several times since Mom passed away, and I just, you know, I don't know. I just go, wow, that it feels like, and I get a weird chill when that happens, you know.
Would that be called? Is that like a residual encounter with Jeremy?
Yeah, that's defined as residual. Certainly is something that, you know, can move from place to place or move with someone. Or continue to haunt a location, you know, long after somebody has moved on. There certainly is a veil that separates us from all we perceive, Johnny.
Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you both again for an amazing job on the Into the Parabnormal theme song. You all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, okay?
You have a great Thanksgiving,
Jeremy. It's
My
really
pleasure.
Nice talking to you.
And for the audience, here we go by Johnny Cobb and Jerry McCoy. It's Into the Parabnormal.
Separates us from all we perceive.